Hello everyone, my name is Louis Sung, and welcome back to another episode of The Pulse of Finns Nation. So, thank you all so much for the first time we did this show. There was a lot of support from you all, so thank you so much for that. We're going to get the ball rolling right now. We've got some more comments coming your way, so we're going to go ahead and discuss everything that Dolphins Twitter and Dolphins Facebook and Dolphins Reddit and all you guys are talking about. So, we'll go ahead and get into that. The Dolphins do everything perfectly, and Greer is king crowd is really going to flood the timeline with this report. So aside from the slightly half-fake, half-real yawn, yes, this is exactly what's pretty much going on. This whole idea that Laremy Tunsil wants that much money after he got traded to the Houston Texans. And mind you, I don't blame him. I still believe that Laremy Tunsil is an excellent left tackle. He's not the best in the league, mind you, but this is what the market does. The market plays games with everything. Suddenly, this guy is much more expensive than normally he would be. Suddenly, this guy who's just coming off a career year is going to end up making a ton more money than normally he would have. Let's just take a look at Andre Branch for the Dolphins a few years back. He had himself one of the best years in his whole career as a reserve player, and the Dolphins decided to reward him with well, I won't say a big contract, but big for him, I should say. But with the whole Laremy Tunsil thing, this only makes it all the more obvious that Chris Grier actually did make a very good trade, sending Laremy Tunsil and, yes, Kenny Stills to the Houston Texans. Did he help their playoff chances? Of course. But also, he was responsible for, like, a lot of false start penalties, all by himself, Laremy Tunsil. I think he was the most penalized left tackle in football last year. So, all things considered, the trade was not that bad. We get 2 first-round picks, an extra second-round pick, so I mean, hey, you either take it or you leave it. So all those picks that we got from Houston are now going to be used to hopefully get our franchise quarterback or move up for whatever. I personally would prefer to use all 3 picks on 3 players. We've discussed that already. So I'm not really all that sad about losing Laremy Tunsil. There are a ton of offensive tackles in this upcoming draft that can be developed into somebody really special. Look at Josh Jones, look at Mekhi Becton, look at Tristan Wirfs, who just had himself a phenomenal combine. He's probably going to be a top 10 pick, but there are options available for the Dolphins. It's not like Laremy Tunsil was the end-all, be-all, the superstar that is going to anchor the offensive line for the next 20 years. It doesn't have to be that drastic. Tunsil was very good. The Texans paid a king's ransom to get him. So, yeah, Grier is king. He is the one who called for the ransom. He got the ransom in exchange for Laremy Tunsil. So, yeah, Grier is king for now. Let's see what he does with his little reign. I wish fans who have podcasts, write articles, or talk about the Finns focus less on being right and more about their perspective on things. I learned so much more from that, and I try to do the same when I talk to my followers. Fins up. And I agree. I agree with that whole situation. It's better to actually talk about things, offer the fact that you have an opinion, and say, this is why I think what I think, rather than try to talk about, I'm objectively right, everybody else is wrong, and by the way, I have this source and this source and this source that says this, this, and this, and thusly, you should all listen to me, and everybody else who tells you otherwise is wrong. That's not how social media works. 9 times out of 10, if somebody's saying that they have a source, then they're probably just throwing stuff at the wall and trying to see what sticks. Some people actually legitimately do have sources. I'm not going to take away that credit. If somebody actually has a source, then good for you. We'll never really know for sure because we're not in your building, we're not in your house, we're not in your mind. But just by looking back and seeing what's going on, there's a lot of times where people who say, I have a source, really is just like a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. And even that can end up getting lost in translation. It's so much more educational and so much more entertaining when people just say, this is how I think about this, this is why I think about this, what do you think about this, and then we can kind of go back and forth in an honest, open debate. As soon as you start saying, fact, this is how it is, then it's like, okay, so what's the point? I'm never going to be able to convince you otherwise. I'm never going to be able to tell you that you're wrong because you don't want to hear any other side of it. And that's what a lot of Dolphins Twitter does. With Ryan Tannehill, the whole Ryan Tannehill discussion, everybody said that if anybody said he was terrible, then he was terrible. Nobody was allowed to say anything different. Or he was the best quarterback ever since Dan Marino. Nobody else was allowed to say anything different. That's not fun, and that's what made being a Dolphins fan so painful for the last almost a decade with Ryan Tannehill at the quarterback position, because you can't discuss Ryan Tannehill. You can't discuss his good, his bad, or anything like that. Everybody speaks in absolutes. I'm right, you're wrong, go, well, yeah, I would add in a little, I'll make sure that it's added in. Go yourself. Okay? So, yes, opinions and talking and discussing things is much better than saying, I am right, you're wrong, and you can get out of my face about that. go kick rocks. Do what it takes to get Tua or face another 10 years of searching for the franchise QB. It's not Herbert or Love, it's Tua. Make it happen. Make us relevant again. I swear to God, this cult of Tua thing, it's gonna kill me, I swear. Once again, we're gonna have this discussion. Tua Tagovailoa is a very good QB prospect who may or may not ever get back to being the player he once was. That hip injury, those ankle injuries, all these injuries that's been piling up over the years for him, and now he's going to go into the NFL where all of a sudden everybody's bigger, stronger, faster, and one wrong move could spell the end of his NFL career before it even starts. And again, let's be clear about something. We don't know what anybody's going to do until they hit that NFL field. Joe Burrow is looking like the consensus #1 pick. He looks like he's going to be the best quarterback to ever hit the NFL in a very long time. But we don't know. He hasn't done it yet. Justin Herbert, he's boring. He's not somebody who makes you excited at the idea of being your franchise quarterback. Mind you, he just had an excellent combine. He has all the prototype quarterback tools. He's got all the potential in the world. He just needs to be coached up. And yet nobody wants him because he's not this guy or this guy or this guy. And Jordan Love, he's been compared to Patrick Mahomes how many times now? And you're saying he ain't it? You don't know what he is. He could very well be the next Patrick Mahomes. We don't know anything yet. We have to see what happens first. I, again, wouldn't mind drafting Jordan Love just because he had a terrific combine too, by the way. He could very well be a top 10 pick too if some team really wants him, really wants him. And again, why wouldn't you? After seeing what Patrick Mahomes has done, and if every time he gets compared to somebody it's to Patrick Mahomes, heck yeah, I want Jordan Love. And that's not to say I don't want Tua. Again, this is where the whole discussion comes in. There's not only one quarterback the Dolphins must draft or everything is going to crap out. There's more than one quarterback available. There's more than one prospect to look at. Success does not come with just the one guy. Any of these quarterbacks could either pan out or they could just pan. You just don't know. You're going to be able to see it when they get in there, but we really need to stop speaking in absolutes, just like I said earlier. Tua is a very good prospect. Jordan Love is a very good prospect. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are very good prospects. Depending on where they land and who the coaching staffs are, that's going to determine a lot of their NFL success. And we need to stop acting like if Tua's the guy, if Tua's the only one, and if they don't get Tua, then the offseason was a complete failure. That's just not how it works. There's so many things to factor in. I can't see the Lions trading out of the top and missing out on cornerback Jeff Okudah, defensive tackle Derek Brown, and linebacker Isaiah Simmons. And I pretty much agree with that statement. This is where, again, I say the Dolphins don't really need to trade up. The Lions are trying to see if they can get their own king's ransom for that 3rd overall pick and see if maybe the Dolphins will panic and try to quickly move up and try to get that quarterback, whoever it is that they may be targeting. And again, any reports that anybody knows exactly which quarterback is first on the Dolphins draft board, we've heard it's Joe Burrow, we've heard it's Tua, we've heard it's Herbert, we've heard it's this guy or this guy. Guess what? It's all a lie. It's all smoke screens. Only the Dolphins know exactly who it is they're targeting the most. Only anybody in that building specifically. And I say specifically because I mean the front office. I am positive that Janitor Joe or whoever is working in the facility on the bottom do not know what exactly the Dolphins are planning this offseason and in this draft. There's no way. So we don't know what the Dolphins are going to do, and we don't know what the Lions are going to do. I personally feel like there's too much talent that's available at number 3 overall, and they're not going to want to trade out of that spot. Jeffrey Okudah could very well be an elite cornerback in maybe a year, maybe in his rookie year he may be elite. You've got Isaiah Simmons who's just sitting there, who's literally Minkah Fitzpatrick on steroids. Well, not literally, he doesn't do steroids, but you know what I mean. He's one of the best defensive prospects you could ever ask for. He can do everything. He can rush the passer, he can cover running backs, he can cover wide receivers, he can cover tight ends, he can stuff the run. It's just nothing Isaiah Simmons can't do. And then Derek Brown is like this superstar defensive lineman in the making. And you think the Lions are going to want to give that up? Yeah, they could probably trade down and get one of those guys because the Dolphins would move up. But at the very same token, the Dolphins could very easily stand pat and wait for the Lions to make their pick. The Lions don't need a quarterback. I mean, they could draft Tua if they really wanted to, but that wouldn't help Matt Patricia, who's probably very much on thin ice because his time is running out. He hasn't had much success with Detroit. The owner's probably going to want to move on pretty soon. He's got to find some level of success, and his best chance at current success right now is to stick with Stafford or sign another free agent quarterback, because quite frankly, whoever drafts Tua is going to have to wait a year for him to heal up, get ready to be acclimated to the NFL. Matt Patricia with the Lions doesn't have time for that. So the Lions are probably going to pick one of those three guys, and whoever ends up, again, falling to the Dolphins at 5, it could very well be Tua. I'm not convinced that they're going to have to trade up for him anyway, because again, the injury history, his overall prospect, again, is special, but that injury is a serious question mark, and no matter what happens, whoever drafts him is going to have to sit him. There is no chance that Tua plays in 2020. There's no chance. And so with that in mind, whoever drafts him has to wait. The Lions don't have time to wait anymore. Matt Patricia is probably fighting for his job right now. The fact that people don't understand there is more than one way to rush the passer. FNAC is a powerful edge rusher and uses power very well. People are looking for the sexy and flashy pass rushers. I'll take my gritty pass rushers that create problems at the line of scrimmage for offenses. Yeah, I can't argue with that. The whole idea of a sexy, flashy pass rusher is always intriguing. That's exactly the reason I decided I wanted Clavon Chason. I think that's how you say his name anyway, but he's the kind of guy that I would like to be rushing the passer. The guy who kind of looks like Cameron Wake. He has this awesome bend. He has this amazing burst. The guy who reminds me of a Jason Taylor or Cameron Wake. The Dolphins haven't had that for a while. And even Cam, who is still amazing and is fun to watch, even he is going to start to fall off a little bit, especially with all these injuries that he's had. I'm all for a Cameron Wake homecoming one year if he decides he wants to keep playing, because I want to see him end his career in a Dolphins uniform. But even he is very much limited in what he can do. Now, Epinesa, with his power, could probably rush the passer much more, let's say, effectively, just because he's exactly what the Dolphins are looking for. They're not looking for somebody who's just going to run around the edge and chase after the quarterback. They want power. They want, I'm going to push you out of my way and then get after the quarterback that way. And oh, by the way, I can also set the edge pretty darn well. The versatile type, the Trey Flowers type, the guy who can do both things pretty well instead of doing one thing extremely well and then the other thing he's absolutely terrible at. I can understand that. But that doesn't mean I don't still want a sexy pass rusher. I want that guy to be racking up sacks here and there and everywhere. So, yeah, Cam Wake wants to come back. I'm all for it, but I don't see it happening for a while. But just so you know, welcome back, Cam, whenever you like. From what I heard this week, offensive tackle market is about to explode. Some folks believe Jack Conklin will top Lane Johnson for highest paid OL at $18 million a year. Laramie Tunsil extension may hit $20 million a year. Offensive tackles Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton, Andrew Thomas could all be drafted top 10. And I'm fine with that, man. Listen, all these offensive tackles coming up into the draft, that just means that it's going to be that much easier for the Dolphins to find somebody to replace Laramie Tunsil. Whether it's Wirfs, whether it's Becton, whether it's Josh Jones, then he's more of a project prospect than a can't-miss guy. But again, this is all about the coaching staff, again, developing players who have extreme potential and turning them into something special. Nick Needham wasn't supposed to be as good as he was, and yet he ended up being pretty darn special. And when I say special, I mean for an undrafted free agent kind of special. It's not like he's going to be an NFL superstar anytime soon. But doggone it, he went from get this guy off our football team to, hey, I wouldn't mind having this guy as our number one reserve player. So, hey, look at this coaching staff and the job they've done. Now, I know a lot of people have taken off, but that doesn't mean that the coaching staff isn't still capable of developing players. We're going to have to wait and see. But all these guys who are available, that just means it's going to be that much easier for the Dolphins to find somebody. If Conklin costs, by the way, yeah, and that's the other thing I have to address. If Conklin does end up costing $18 million a year, fine. Dolphins can afford it. You need to get that offensive line fixed, or everything that they do in the future is royally screwed. Like, say for instance, you draft Tua and then you don't give him that elite offensive line to run behind or to throw behind, and all of a sudden things just, things aren't going to be pretty for his hip, his ankle, his head, his anything. You need somebody to block for Tua or whoever ends up being the new franchise quarterback. Otherwise, all this is for naught, and we might as well just keep waiting for the next 10 years after all, because you have to be available to be useful. You have to be available to be somebody worth being a franchise. If you can't play, you can't do anything for the team, and that's just a waste of time for everybody. Get that offensive line fixed at all costs. I don't care how much money it costs. You have Brandon Scherf out there. You have Joe Thuney out there. You have Conklin out there. Get somebody in there to fix it. Period. End of discussion. This has been an issue for over a decade. It needs to stop. This is a pain to watch every year, to watch the Dolphins fail to fix the offensive line. Enough. buy the offensive line. Get every elite guy you can. I don't care if it costs the whole salary cap. Just get that line fixed, and everything else will fall into place. Okay, so that's all we got for this episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, thank you all so much also for the support that you've offered. Make sure you leave some comments right there in the comment box below. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're ready for whenever we upload some new episodes of this show and also other stuff that's coming up on 5 Reasons Sports Network. So again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you all for the next one. Good night. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Pulse of Finns Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and with me today... Wait, there's nobody with me today, it's just me. I'm so used to... Hello everybody, and my name is Louis Sung, and welcome back to... Why name? The Dolphins do everything perfectly, and Greer is king crowd is really gonna flood the timeline with this... oh no, auto power off. What's this good thing? Oh god. Go producer man, go! Hello everybody, my name is Louis Sung, and welcome back to another episode of The Pulse of Finns Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung. I said that already, didn't I? Thank you all so much for the way. I can't see the Lions trading out of the top and missing I can't see the Lions trading out of the top and missing out on cornerback Jeff Okudah, DT Derek Brown, or linebacker Isaiah Simmons. And oh, isn't that special? And I pretty much agree with that whole situation. Yeah, I don't expect the Miami Dolphins, not the Dolphins, the Lions. And again, all those names just mean that it's going to be much easier for the